Welcome to the Balanced Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Matt Southam. Here, we delve into candid conversations with entrepreneurs, exploring both their business journey and their secrets to maintaining mental well-being. As we navigate the balance of ambition and inner peace, I hope you find insights, inspiration, and invaluable takeaways in every episode. Thank you for joining us. Anthony, welcome to the Balanced Ambition podcast. I want to kick off by asking you, I suppose, quite a serious question, which is why should businesses care about cybersecurity?
Yeah, thanks for that. Good question. And it covers quite a broad range of things, really. So, cybersecurity comes into every aspect of businesses these days. Pretty much the majority of businesses are doing their business online. There's been a huge push to sort of technology transformation over the last few years, where a lot of things have moved from on-premise infrastructure into cloud infrastructure as well. And most people have got their personal data within a lot of these organizations. So, for example, from a cybersecurity perspective, you've got organizations like financial services, they've got your bank account within there. Without cybersecurity, people can just go in and sort of steal information. I mean, if I put it into a sort of a crude way of sort of thinking about it is, if you think of a house with doors and windows, and you've got a safe with your money in, as it were, the cybersecurity aspects that we're looking at is shutting all the windows. It's making sure you've got locks on the windows. It's making sure the door's shut, put the locks on the door. And then we put, alarm system in that house, and then we potentially could be monitoring that alarm system. And that's sort of, at a basic level, how we look at cybersecurity is that, we look at an organization, we look at what the risks are, who would be targeting that organization, what's their core assets, is it personal data, is it financial data, is it, within critical national infrastructure, which we do a lot of work in, is it systems that control water pumping stations or water, sewage plants, or, gas pipelines, or airport landing lights. All these things are controlled by technology these days. And, when we're doing these assessments, we're looking at those assets, we're looking at what the risks are. We're then going, right, okay, what are the controls that we can put in place? And we want to do layered approach to the controls that we put in place within these organizations. And, we are literally doing that. So when we're looking at access control, is there password in place? Is there two-factor authentication in place? That's sort of like the locking of those doors, locking of those windows. Will then be like, right, what assets do we need to monitor? When we're monitoring those assets, it's we're taking log sources from different computer systems or different technologies, which will tell us if someone's been trying to access that system that shouldn't be accessing that system, if data's been removed from that particular place, and we're monitoring that. So that's sort of that aspect. And then it's a case of, if people are trying to steal that data or that information, how do we shut down that asset or that device, or take it off the system? There's obviously been a big prevalence over the last few years in things like ransomware. So when we're looking at large organizations, if we start to see like ransomware running on a particular laptop or device, we can sort of take that off the system to protect the wider organization and the wider system. So just going back to the initial question of why cybersecurity is so important, it's in everything that we're doing every day. When you are working, you're logging into an email system, you're going onto a corporate network, you need to make sure that that individual is the right individual that should access that system. The information they're looking at is the right information, and they've got the availability to be able to sort of see that when they need to see it as well. And that's going back to the core, I suppose, of cybersecurity, of looking at confidentiality, integrity, and availability of systems and data. So it's probably a bit of a roundabout answer to answer your question, but it's just trying to sort of bring it back to the initial question, as it were. But without it, it would just be a bit of a free-for-all, and no one's data would be safe, because people could be changing the quality of that data or stealing it, or even worse, stealing your finances or your corporate secrets. It's another one. So yeah, hopefully that sort of covers it in a roundabout way.
Yeah, it does. And I guess you touched on a couple of bits there of sort of, setting up systems that are, I suppose, preventative. So looking at where the general risks are, but also talking about monitoring there as well and being reactive to threats that are, you can almost see happening in, I suppose, almost real time, or just, if something's got in, making sure it doesn't get into the rest of the system, and protecting and locking down as much as possible. So do you find there's a little bit of both? If it's not just set up a system and leave it, actually there's continuous monitoring.
Yeah, it's looking at that whole life cycle and sort of all the different layers. So, you want to put as much effort into that sort of protect stage in terms of, making sure, as I said, you've got your access control systems, your endpoint protection, your encryption on the system. So that's all looking at sort of the protect stage. And then you want to look at, detect, to make sure, the right people are accessing those systems, and that if someone is trying to hack into those systems or steal data, or cause damage and so on, or denial of service or so on, you're detecting that as quickly as possible. And then it's about responding to that as quickly as possible as well, to be able to deal with that. And we look across all those different areas. And one of the other aspects that we've focused a lot on ourselves over the last sort of few years is looking at the intelligence as well, so the threat intelligence piece. So, you're looking at those risks, you're looking at the sort of threat intelligence of what, trying to preempt when you think that those attacks may be happening, looking at the data. Is someone trying to sell credentials that they've managed to get off somebody, or are there groups that are having chatter about potentially attacking a particular system or type of organization? And then with all, software and data and systems, you get vulnerabilities that happen. It's why you get the patches and updates that you get through Microsoft and Apple, and all these organizations are always doing security updates all of the time, because vulnerabilities are always being found. And generally, when we see a breach, even though the press will always say it's a highly sophisticated cyber attack, I did a bit of a look over the last sort of year, and I think it's a bit of a made up statistic, but it felt like about 70 to 80% of all news stories had the word highly sophisticated cyber attack in it. And then actually when you look at it, it's a phishing attack, or where someone's sending you an email trying to get you to click on a link, or it's a system that hasn't been updated for 2 years, or it's companies still getting the basics wrong. That's generally what we're seeing a lot of the time.
So a lot of these systems, actually, their weakest link is the humans that are involved. Would you is that unfair, or is that a fair comment?
I would say that's unfair, because and it's probably one of my pet peeves, is a lot of people will blame individuals and organizations for a security breach, and actually us as a security profession should be doing better than that. We should be making sure that we've got the right sort of systems and processes in place, because we know that people will click on links. We know that people will make mistakes. We are human, and we all make mistakes. Everybody. So we need to know that people will click on links. People will be tricked. People will be social engineered. And we need to make sure we got the right systems and detections and processes in place, that if that does happen, we can protect from that. And to say simple things that a lot of organizations do now, is making sure that you don't have local admin privileges on computers, so you can't install particular sort of programs when people click on links and so on. There's lots of things that can be done in the background to provide that sort of a bit of a level of protection or detection if something is going awry, as it were.
Yeah. And I guess it's always playing a little bit of cat and mouse type situation of, as much as you are trying to protect, hackers are trying to find new ways. So there is that, I guess, you've got to be aware of.
Yeah, it is definitely a constant battle. And as a defender, we've got within organizations large estates that we have to protect, and as an attacker, they only have to find one chink in that armor to be able to potentially get in. And again, it's all about sort of the layers of protection. And, we've now got added complications with, the whole revolution around machine learning and artificial intelligence, that actually, skill level to be able to do some of these attacks can be lowered, because people can start to use AI and machine learning to start to write sort of scripts to be able to do these attacks quicker. Where in the past you may have someone who's got deep coding expertise and knowledge to be able to carry out some of these attacks, actually the bar can be lowered a little bit now, and if people are able to use these technologies, they can create malware and it can become a bit more prevalent potentially as well.
Yeah, I can see it's almost AI fighting AI, good AI trying to protect our systems from the people using bad AI, and it's sort of a roundabout that we are. I wouldn't say we're in control of the robots, but I guess AI plays a huge benefit in some of the stuff we do, in the way it processes data very quickly, but equally it can be used by either side.
No, exactly that. And so there's been some fantastic developments in terms of SIEM technologies and the defense technologies that we're using. Because it's been well documented that within the cybersecurity space, we still need a lot of people to be able to deal with the amount of work that across the UK, but through Europe and through US. And globally, we're still trying to get the amount of professionals within this industry to increase a lot. So what AI can do is, again, help us bring more people on that journey, reduce the skill level in certain areas, but we still need people to be able to understand the data and use the tools.
Yeah. And talk to me about that, I suppose, your journey into the industry. So obviously you've grown the business. Talk a little bit about the business and, how you've taken it from where it was when you started to now. What's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey over all the years. So starting with, I suppose, what and who we are now. So with Bridewell, we're an end-to-end cyber services company that focuses on critical national infrastructure. So it's oil and gas, water, transportation, energy, financial service type organizations. And end to end, we do everything from the advisory through to the monitoring and incident response pieces. In terms of my journey, is I've always been involved in information assurance, cybersecurity. It's had a number of names over the years. I started working part-time for a company sort of when I was 16, sort of when I was in school, to earn sort of pocket money as it were. And I wasn't really doing much. I was sort of doing odd jobs, as you imagine then, sort of going into data centers, pulling cables under floors and going into the crawl spaces where, people didn't really want to be. So that's sort of how I started into that area. And I carried on doing that for the same company through university. And actually, I ended up doing a biology degree rather than a business or a technology degree, which I think if I went back now, I'd probably change that. I don't really know why I went down that route. But I went for a school that was very traditional on its sciences, and so ended up doing that. And I always knew I wanted to build my own business. I've always been really interested in business and management and those sort of aspects. But the first sort of businesses I looked at setting up a nightclub in Spain, which didn't go ahead. I pulled out of that one. And then
so go on, just tell me how that story came. But where did that come from? You've gone from doing biology and a bit of IT work into opening a nightclub in Spain.
Yeah, don't guess where my brain goes with these things. But so as I say, the technology, the cybersecurity aspect of it was always, it was just something that I was doing in the background to earn some money. But hadn't really been focused in my head of that being a career. I'd always been looking for business ideas. Again, I'd done a number of different things. I'd always been working from quite an early age. So I've done like betterware sales, like door-to-door sales pieces. I've done, this part-time piece for the security company. I did a lot of bar work as well through university. So I was doing that other stuff in the day, and I was doing a lot of bar work in the evenings. And one of the bars I was working with, the manager there, we were talking, and we came up with this idea of setting up a nightclub in Spain. We went over to Spain, started checking out venues and looking at it. Decided to not go ahead with that, but did open up a bar in Bath, and then thought, right, create a chain of bars. Then we're starting to look at other bars to sort of set up. But very quickly realised that the food and beverage industry, particularly, this was a leasehold pub, so it actually doesn't take a lot of money to take on a lease, but they get you on the margins. And actually, it was one of the biggest lessons I learned in business at that early stage. Was I was very much focused on growing the revenues, and we were growing the revenues brilliantly, but we were making hardly any profit at all. And I was working ridiculous hours trying to just make a few pounds. It was exhausting, and it basically it drained me for a year and a half, and decided that the pub and bar area was not one to make any sort of decent cash. But I learned a lot from it. Really learned, engaging with individuals, management, cash flow. All of these areas sort of were things that I learned quite early on through a few harsh lessons.
Some real helpful skills. But
it definitely wasn't a success. I would not put that down as a successful time. But I just at that point took a step back in terms of, right, now I need to work out where my career is going to be. What am I going to do? So, went back to, right, how have I been earning money? How have I funded this? And it was like, right, going back to the security company that I've been working with, went there full time. Did some courses with CESG, which is now the National Cybersecurity Centre. It changed from CESG to the National Cybersecurity Centre. So they did some external courses. I did those courses with them, and did what was back then called BS 7799, which is now ISO 27001, which is the Information Security Management System work. So these were all sort of some of the early precursors around security and information security that I was doing, and ended up doing quite a bit of work around sort of governance, risk and compliance, information security management, and so on, within the gaming industry, and also within sort of central government. And this small company that I was working for, that started to grow, and that started to do quite well. It became quite successful over a few years. And again, this is probably down to my personality a little bit. I started to not really see eye to eye with the owner of that business and the person who was developing it. And I felt there were better ways that services could be delivered. It's probably the best way to sort of put it. In terms of the company that I was working with, it was more seen as a blocker to business and not an enabler, which is where I sort of really felt security should be, and where it can add the most value. So I left that organization, didn't have another job to go to, but just felt as though I needed to do something different. Started applying to roles with larger companies, because I thought it'd be good to get some experience within sort of bigger companies. So I was applying to like Deloitte and Logica, as it was back then. And then when I was doing that, I was going through a recruitment company, and sort of out of nowhere, they said, have you ever thought about recruitment? We think there's a role for someone to build out like a contract recruitment division for information security. And I was like, don't even know anything about recruitment. But the bit that sort of I still remember it to this day is like, they said, you get to treat it like your own business and your own business unit. What you put in, you'll get out of it. And I really like that sort of process and that thought of being able to, I've always worked really hard. That's just always been driven into me. And it's like, I'll get the rewards for the hard work that I put in. So I went away, and I was a bit nerdy. I started looking at videos, DVDs, all about recruitment processes and so on, just try to, because I had to then go through a recruitment process for that company. So I was just like, well, I want to know as much as I can about this business that I've never done before. So went through that recruitment process, got that job to set up this information security contract division. I thought I'll do it for 1 to 2 years. I'll have great exposure across different companies, build up my network, CIOs, CISOs, and then I can ultimately start my own company, which would go back to my roots of the consulting side of things. I ended up doing that, and I think it was 2008, I started just as the financial crash happened. And I just really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed speaking to these CISOs, CIOs, understanding their challenges, and building teams of contractors, as it were, to go in there and solve these problems. And it was just, I felt like we were really adding value to these organizations and making a big difference in an area that was up and coming. Security was really up and coming in this area, and there weren't a lot of companies doing what we did. And I built a reputation very quickly of being able to find really good people, because I had my experience of being able to find the right skill sets, bring people in and deliver these projects. And what was supposed to be a 1 to 2 year career in recruitment ended up being 5 years in there. But I ended up starting to become a bit disillusioned with the whole industry towards the end, because everything moved to recruitment process outsourcers. It was all about CVs on a portal. And it took the enjoyment out of the work, which was engaging with the leaders within these organizations, understanding their problems, coming up with solutions. And that's what I sort of thrived on, and building those relationships. And you take away that relationship element, and you take away that solutioning and problem solving element, and it's no fun for anyone, I don't rate. No. So that's when I decided to set up Bridewell and start sort of this consulting aspect. And that was actually the company I was working with invested in that as a startup. So it was working again, engaging with these different organizations, going back to that problem solving, but delivering it all as a consulting engagement.
Okay, yeah.
And that started off really well. Started doing really, really well. I think we ended up doing probably around about £1 million in our first year. So we started going great guns in that sort of space. And then I met my business partner, Scott, in 2015. So we started Bridewell 2013. And then Scott came in to work on a project that we had in 2015. I'd already known him for a number of years anyway from within the industry. But we just really hit it off. And I'd never met anyone else really that could work to the same level that I could work. As I said, I do love work, and I'm a bit of a workaholic, and Scott was sort of very similar. So we sort of really hit it off in that way, which some would say is maybe a bit of a negative these days. But I said we loved what we did, and so he folded in his sort of business into Bridewell, and then we just massively grew it together. He really focused on the technical elements, the delivery elements. I really focused on the sort of sales elements, and we had that really sort of defined roles and responsibilities where we could just really take the business to the next level. Eventually, we bought out the recruitment company that had a share in the business in 2018. And then, we went on another growth spurt that sort of reinvigorated us and took it forward, because we could reinvest everything just directly into the business rather than having to worry about dividends and paying off shareholders and so on. Just everything went into the business. And then in 2021, we sold a minority stake to a private equity organization called Growth Capital Partners, who's still got a stake today. And again, that gave us another impetus where we de-risked a bit, and we could really take the business on another real sort of push. And that helped us look at various things like the growth into the US. We'd be looking at things like acquisitions, which we haven't done any as yet. Everything's been organic to date. But with their experience and knowledge, we've really improved the business. And we're able to now, look for acquisitions to integrate and take the business on the next part of the journey. So that's where we're really sort of looking at the moment. We're about 230 odd people, around about sort of the 27 million turnover mark now. But over the next like 4 or 5 years, with acquisitions and so on, we really want to sort of push that massively up, 100, 200 million turnover organization, and being known as one of the globe's like leading critical national infrastructure cybersecurity businesses. We've got a great reputation here in the UK. We're building in the US, and then with some strategic acquisitions, we think that we can really hone in on our market and take over further in Europe and further around the globe as well. So there's a lot to do. Still, still
and in,
go.
in 10 years, that's fantastic growth, and you obviously made some great decisions in there. Where have there been challenges within that? Well, I was going to say, where have the challenges come from then? Because everyone talks about all the good bits, and that is the bit everyone gets excited about. But there would have been challenges in the last 10 years.
Oh, there's always been challenges. Early days, maybe made some poor decisions in terms of people to bring into the business. Again, sometimes people want to treat things more as a lifestyle business rather than really want to put all of the money and invest and grow through. So sort of had challenges around that in some of the earlier days. Really making sure we sort of stick to what we're good at. Again, early days we sort of end up trying to do too much and take on too much because you just want any business is good business, and so you end up maybe with working with certain organizations that you shouldn't be working with, and you sort of we tried a few different things. So we went after the SME market for about 18 months because we thought, right, there's so many SMEs around the UK. If we could really come up with a product or a service focusing on that SME market, then we're doing really, really well in that space because no one's focusing on it. There's a reason no one's focusing on it, which is that small businesses are so focused on where their business is coming from that the last thing on their mind is rightly or wrongly is cybersecurity, because they're just trying to make sure they're servicing the clients that they've got and so on, and trying to actually come up with something. We ended up that the SME businesses that we did work with, as they wanted more and more time, and actually we were losing loads of money with what the work that we were doing because they wanted more and more time. We'd done a fixed product in terms of the services, and we knocked that on the head after 18 months. But in terms of what worked, we just worked that working within complex organizations, complex problems, areas where other companies had sort of tried and failed. That's where we seem to do really, really well. We built great relationships with these organizations. We listened to what they wanted to achieve rather than coming in with preset ideas, and really focused on finding the right solutions for them. And we've always been focused on not trying to push a particular product or anything else like that, and it's the right sort of the right security products for the right organizations. As we've grown, we've built a partnership now with Microsoft, and we're one of the leading sort of partners for Microsoft from a security perspective. But that's because we've looked at lots of different technologies, and actually, when we were building out our security operations center, we needed to be able to really get our people to a maximum skill within a certain product rather than having lots of different ones. And because Microsoft plays so nicely across most of the enterprises that we work with, that was where we really sort of focused and honed in. And that's been, when we first did that, everyone was like, Microsoft, they're not a security provider and so on. So we were sort of ahead of the curve on that sort of side of things.
Yeah.
And they've really sort of proved with the investment that they've done and the quality of the technology that they've got, that they are the leading organization in that sort of security space now.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of bits I've picked up there, that actually work out what you're really good at and then do that really well.
Yes.
That
it's easy.
Yeah, it's easy. It's as easy as that.
Yeah.
But it is really hard in those early years when, there's loads of challenges, from cash flow to like you say, having the right people, and sometimes you go for the jobs because you need to, but actually the quicker you can get to that stage of knowing what you're good at and then refining that, I think there's, that's a way to grow. Would that be your take on that? Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of the challenge was, learning to delegate was a difficult piece because I was sort of really focusing on the marketing, the sales, the finances, all of those sort of aspects. And it gets to a point, and Scott was focusing on the quality of the work being delivered to the clients, the services that we're doing, and the technical aspects there. And both of us were like, right, we're running out of hours in a day here, trying to juggle all these different aspects, and then getting people that would do things to the same sort of level that we would be doing them. It's quite difficult. And then we sort of realized, well, actually, we don't need them to do to the same level that we would be doing them. But if they can do 50, 60, 70% of the stuff, then we can always just spend our time getting it up to the level that we need to get it to. So trying to move away from being a bit of a perfectionist in certain areas and just getting more done, and then spending our time in terms of just getting those aspects up to the level that we would be happy with, and really sort of making sure the teams had clear ideas of what's expected of them and that sort of side. So that was definitely a learning curve, getting that sorted. But once we could get on the journey of that delegation piece again, helped with the real growth of the business. And now we've got teams that do all these areas, and a lot of them can spend the money to hire people that are better than us in most of these places as well. So that's another bit.
Great one. Get people who are in a better than you to do certain things. But delegation's always a tough one for any business. I think most business owners, because at the start it is just you doing it all, and you think that's the best way to do it. And it is really hard to delegate out job people, but putting processes together and ensuring it's either done to that standard, or like you say, taking away some of the tasks that actually allow you to just pick up the final part of the job rather than doing all of the smaller parts, helps free up your time to allow you to grow your business.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So just to finish off, I always like to ask for a tip that you would give to someone looking to start a business, whether they're going for the SME, whether they're going, they want to grow a large, international business. What do you think is one of the key aspects business owners or leaders need, or something that they should understand at very early on that will hopefully reduce the number of mistakes?
I think main thing is it's going to be hard work. You're going to need to be resilient. And it's a bit of a numbers game in a number of ways as well. And don't spend too long just trying to come up with the perfect plan for something. It's about action and taking action, and really sort of trying to drive yourself forward and get out there, speak to customers, even if those potential customers don't. You're able to have a conversation with them, understand what they need from the market, and what they're not getting from these other providers or other organizations out there. That's really good input. But the first few years are tough because you think you're making progress with an organization sometimes, and then you get put into like a procurement thing, and they're going, right, well, have you got 3 years worth of accounts? Like, no, I don't have 3 years of accounts. It's like, right, do you have references? No, I don't have references. It's like, you get through one lot of blockers, and someone chucks another load of blockers in the way. And so that's where the resilience piece comes in, and just trying to be level-headed, because it can be quite a bit of an up and down journey as you're going through it. It's just don't give up, work hard, and listen to people along the way.
Yeah. I think the up and down is a really good indication. In all areas of business. Just quickly, though, how do you stay resilient? How do you sort of can cope with those up and downs? What's your go-to?
I tell you what, it's those years in recruitment, there were so many ups and downs in the recruitment market, and you were constantly having to communicate with people, both from a client perspective and to candidates, and it would just be exhausting if you're going up and down the whole time. You just learn actually to stay on this level playing field, and actually life's a lot easier that way. And nothing's going to massively change if something goes wrong or goes right, and it's just about being consistent and setting expectations. Those two things are really important.
Yeah. I guess understanding any problem can be undone and solved, and any big win actually in the grand scheme of things might not have been that big a year later. Just keep level and just keep cracking on and keep turning up and being consistent.
Yeah. And actually on the problems piece, I found, if I sent out, a newsletter or an email or something like that, and it did have a mistake in that I was kicking myself about because I made this silly mistake on something, I actually had higher engagement than something that didn't have a mistake in it, because people have to point out your flaws.
Yeah. Actually, I think, we've all got to take on that actually mistakes are human, and actually do lead to growth. You're not going to grow if you don't make some mistakes. And that's not saying deliberately make them, but just understand, don't beat yourself up too much about it. Understand that it's part of the process.
Yeah, all part of the process. And whether you got 1 year's experience or 30 years of experience, you're still going to make mistakes along the way. And it's all part, as you say, all part of that learning process, and all part of growing and the journey.
Yeah, it's a journey, and just try and enjoy it as much as you can along the way. And while we all take our business very seriously, sometimes you have to not take it too seriously and understand tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah, and one other aspect as well is you learn a lot from your competition in terms of within the security industry. Anyways, we've got a lot of friends in other organisations which people would potentially see as massive competition, but actually, we bounce ideas off each other, catch up at conferences and all these things. And actually, we're all driven by the same sort of desire and trying to change the security industry and trying to actually deliver great service to organisations. And so don't be afraid to speak to what you could potentially see as your competition, as it were, as well.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. I almost in a way don't like the word competition, because that means someone wins and someone loses. But actually, it doesn't mean that you're not competitive, as in you're going to go and try and win some work. But equally, actually, you can work with other organisations. You're going to share similar interests. You probably will get on a social level. So actually, at these conferences, at these networking events, just talk to people, and you can make some really good connections and grow the industry that you're working in, rather than trying to knock each other down. I think that's really key. Yeah,
definitely.
Anthony, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and good to get an insight on what you do and cybersecurity, and how certainly how important it is for the future of all of our lives. And protecting those sort of key bits of infrastructure that we all rely on a daily basis. So thank you very much.
No, well, thank you very much for having me along, Matt. It's been great.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.